Just because the rents are increasing in Calgary does not mean that every single investment property makes sense. Out of all the investment properties that I see every single month, only a small fraction of those actually make sense for me to share them with clients and tell them to look into this more. My name's Adam Fyfe, your Calgary realtor. This video is jammed packed with information, so make sure to follow the chapters along the bottom for various property types as well as rental opportunities. This video is educational based. There is a lot of information in here. I'm going to try to cram in as much as possible, but make sure to pause the video or reach out to me personally if you want these templates. I'm more than happy to share them with you so you can make good investment decisions, especially if you already have an investment property and you're looking at obtaining your own numbers and you want to track it more thoroughly. So let's get into it. We're going to start looking at the Canadian numbers, provincial numbers, and then getting into Calgary. Canada-wide, the annual rate of rent growth in Canada was 9.9% in October, moderating slightly from 11.1 annual pace in September, but representing the second fastest annual increase of the past 7 months. So, it's very interesting. Rentals.ca has Calgary as 23rd as the most expensive city in the entire country to rent. I would imagine Calgary is going to break top 20 at some point here. When you look at the top here, you can see like Vancouver, Burnaby, Toronto, Oakville, and then you go all the way down through majority of Ontario cities, going through a few BCs as well as Nova Scotia to reach Alberta. So pretty crazy stuff here. Calgary has definitely increased a lot more in the last year than it has in the past. You can see that the average asking rents for all property types in Canada is about $2,178, continuing to increase year over year. You can see last year, October, was $1,900, so it's increased by around $200, which is pretty crazy to see. I don't foresee any slowdowns going in the Canadian market yet, especially as home prices get more expensive. People might be priced out of the market, therefore having to rely on rents. So if we start to break it down by province here, you can see it's just an A to B filter. You can see Alberta at the top. Total 1,686 when you combine studios and 3 beds, as well as the year-over-year percentages. In this chart here, you can see that Alberta actually saw the biggest increase, so that's including Calgary and Edmonton. You can see that Nova Scotia saw a 14% increase, yet their total number is actually $2,100 when you combined all 4 of those properties together: studios, 1 bed, 2 bed, 3 beds. Pretty crazy stuff. Let's kind of dig into it a little bit more. This is the rentals.ca, still same chart, but they've broken it more or less down for apartments and condo listings. And when you look at Calgary for the condos, just condos, we're the 12th most expensive city in the entire country. You can see that places like Vancouver, Toronto, obviously are going to beat us. We are at the second highest year-over-year percentage increase, 14.7. The only other cities that saw remotely close were Quebec City as well as Regina. So yes, rents have increased dramatically, but interest rates have also increased dramatically, which really eats into a lot of those profit margins. For investors who've had properties here before, sure, it's a really great time for them. They already have a lower interest rate locked in, but for new investors, this makes it very difficult to find good opportunities. So we really need to dive into it and figure out where those opportunities lie. So this is a really good chart. This is from rentfaster.ca. This is just a general breakdown of average rents across the entire city. This is not broken down into quadrants or communities. This is just citywide. So when you start to look at, your 1 beds, your 2 beds, your 3 beds, your 4 beds, you can start to see various number changes. Red arrow up means increase, which is not good for the renter, and green arrow down means a decrease, which is good for the renter. So this chart is definitely geared towards those renters out there looking to get a general understanding of how much rents cost. I actually use this in my spreadsheet as a citywide average to break down some of the basic numbers in my future spreadsheets. This is a Calgary average rent by unfinished. You can see that this is now breaking it down into quadrants, just a very basic number. Again, just trying to figure out which quadrants would get certain amounts of rent if you're looking at unfurnished. This is a furnished opportunity. This is mainly for long-term investment properties, so not Airbnbs, but more or less just month-to-month renting that are furnished. Really good, again, opportunity to just find those averages about what's going on in the city. So This is just really important to know for you investors out there. If you watch my monthly market reports where I talk about all property types, you can see that I touch on this chart here. This chart is just an overview of different home prices. Now, obviously you want to know how much the home's going to cost versus how much you can rent it for to get your overall cap rate. So this is just a general understanding to showcase to you how much homes cost in Calgary. You can start to see it breaks down even more into quadrants. You can see, as an example, Northwest is more expensive than Southeast. But when you start to compare the rental rates, Northwest is a little bit more expensive than Southeast. So it's very important to start to realize these things. I actually meant to say Southeast is more expensive for rent than Northwest. Sorry about that, which is quite crazy. Southeast is very sought after for rents, but Northwest is more sought after for home ownership. So homes are a little bit more expensive there, rents a little bit less. Homes are less expensive in Southeast, but the rents are a little bit more on average. Now you got to dive into that a little bit deeper. So what we're going to do here is we're going to switch up to this camera view here just to showcase a little bit of my screen. Now, I really want to touch on this because I feel like it is super important for everyone to know. I'm not a mortgage professional. I do not plan on being a mortgage professional. Always consult with your mortgage broker before a realtor. It is very, very, very important that if you reach out to someone like myself who has investment knowledge, to have your numbers down pat. It is very important for you to know your numbers. It is not smart to start looking at opportunities and then find your numbers. Get your numbers first. I use free online tools to calculate average numbers to get VAG cost. Again, consult with your professional. If you don't know your numbers, please don't book a call with me. I will ask if you have your numbers, your pre-approval. I will test you on that a little bit. It's very important that you get your numbers. Every single situation is very different. There's no one size fits all. Investing takes a lot of time, patience, and the ability to act fast. This content is for educational purposes only. I really enjoy making this content, but this does not replace a consultation with a licensed professional. If you need a professional, like a mortgage professional, feel free to reach out to me. I can recommend 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, depending on what your situation is, and I can point you in the right direction to get those numbers before we start to actually put a game plan in place. So that is that. Very important that you remember that before you start reaching out to me, because I have a lot of people reaching out to me. It's great, but just make sure that you're getting your numbers well in advance. So this spreadsheet here, there is a lot of information on this spreadsheet. I'm going to go over these fairly fast because I don't want to make this video too long. Again, refer to the chapters along the bottom for various property types. So on the top left-hand corner, we're going to look at the 9 sales in the past 30 days. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch back down to this screen here, and you can see that for what I look for, the detached legal suite, $450,000 to $600,000. From my view, I see that there was about 9 sales in the past 30 days, which was one more than last month. The average home price from what I saw was about $575,000, down payment, total mortgage, interest rate, which actually fell. The payment factor of $600 to $3,300 per month for every $100,000 actually decreased from last month from $10 per $100,000. Great stuff, good news. You can see that the current rents is the 3-bed up, 2-bed down. This was actually decreased from last month at $31. I get, again, these average rents from that rentfaster.ca chart, so please make sure to refer to that. These are just averages across the entire city. This is not going to replace diving into specific units and specific numbers. This is an average number for the entire city. So what I've done here is I've got my rental income, I've got my mortgage principal, mortgage interest payment, mortgage remaining, property tax, condo fees, property management fees, home insurance, home utilities, and city utilities. Now, what I'm doing here, and shout out to all my mortgage brokers for all your amazing help, is I'm looking at the mortgage principal payment versus the interest payment, the actual mortgage payment in its entirety, and then its remaining balance. I do this with all my investors to really make sure that they have a very good understanding of what is going to occur when they start to actually chip down on their mortgage and they want to leverage it. You can see that the property taxes in total were $2,900 a year. There's no condo fees on a single detached house. Property management fee, if you want to get a property manager, it's about 10%. If you want to do it on your own, you're going to save yourself $4,000 a year. Home insurance, average, $160 a month. I know people that have less. I know some people that have more. Really depends on your personal situation. situation. Home utilities typically covered, and city utilities typically covered by the renters. So when we start to look at these numbers here, you can start to see that the income per year is about $47,000. You can see that the expenses per year are about $44,800. You can see that the annual cash flow after expenses is about $3,000. And then you can actually see that the monthly cash flow is about $250. Okay. So if you're willing to spend the money and you're actually looking at getting a single detached legal suite home, you have a potential on average to make a potential $250 a month. There are so many different factors to be put into play here. This is a very, very, very basic average. You can see that the cap rate on this specific example is 6.64%. The higher the better. 7% is great, 8% is awesome. Anything under about 6.5%, I'd be a little bit weary about that. Please take a moment to read through this. Shout out to Richard's Mortgage Group, as well as Mortgage Connection, and as well as Your Key Rental Management for providing me with this data to help you guys on YouTube a lot more. So as you can see, single detached home have a potential of making up a couple bucks. Now let's look at semi-detached. So a lot of the things are similar. You can see that there was only 2 sales in the past 30 days, which was actually the same as last month. From what I found, $150, about the average of what I saw. You can see that the rents are similar to what you would get as a single family unit. All of the interest rates are going to be the same for everything. You can see that the rental income, the mortgage principal, interest, payment, the property taxes, $2,900, no condo fees, property management fees, home insurance again, as well as home utilities and city utilities. You can see when you start to break it down, there is a potential cash flow of $175 in this example. Legal half duplexes with legal basement suites are my bread and butter. This is where I feel a very good starting point for a lot of you investors out there. They are a little bit more expensive, about $550 for a half decent unit in a pretty good area, but you can see that the incomes are evident. They are very competitive. 2 sales in the past 30 days. Could you imagine being in the market ready to go and having to jump on an opportunity? You're probably going to have less favorable terms as a buyer. Might not be an unconditional contract, but it will be a little bit of a faster contract, probably over ask, and a little bit of a favorable contract to the seller to try to win the offer. So very, very, very important to set up your game plan well in advance. When we hop over to townhouses, I tried very hard actually to find good average opportunities in this segment. I've personally been a part of townhouse investments this year and they've worked, but on average, they're not working. You can see 17 sales in the past 30 days, one less than last month. I saw a couple opportunities around $400,000. You can see that the 2-bed townhouses are going for around $2,400. And then you can look at all of these factors here, including your now condo fees, which is about $6,000 a year for this specific example, almost $500 a month. And when you start to break the numbers down, the total income's $29,000, but the total expenses are about $36,000 if you round up. So you can clearly see that there is a loss every single month of $530. But let's remember, at the same time, if you're not paying a property manager and you're going to do a lot of this yourself, there is a potential savings of $244. If you don't know what you're doing, you're not from Calgary, I strongly recommend that you get a property manager. But if you're local, you live here, and you want to gain the knowledge and the experience, try it out yourself and do what you can to kind of save yourself money every single month. But that is a conversation for someone individually, depending on what their scenario is. Now, cap rate on this is only 4.5%. If you have questions about cap rate, Google it. Look it up on YouTube. There's some very good explanations of cap rate on YouTube. Now, when we move forward to condos downtown, I do want to add too, the townhouses that I look at on this specific example, Northwest and City Center. Those are my, my most favorable places that I like to look. But again, this is a very basic average. If you're looking for the best possible numbers, we need to dive into a lot more areas and looking at what's going on citywide. If I were to open up townhouses citywide, it would be very overwhelming for myself to kind of go through those numbers. So with that being said, condos downtown, 2 bedrooms, okay? Downtown 2-bedroom condos priced between $150,000 and $350,000. There were 63 sales in the past 30 days, 24 less than last month. You can see on average, I saw things for about $270. The 2-bed downtown condos going for around $2,400. You can put in all these factors like property tax, condo fees, property management fees, home insurance, which typically covered by the condo, home utilities, city utilities, typically covered by the renter. You start to look at this opportunity here. You can see that the annual income, if nothing goes wrong and you're not even saving any money for maintenance or anything, you could potentially walk away with $800 a year, which is not much at all, or about $70 per month. Now, you can see that the cap rate is actually under 6.5%, which is kind of a threshold for me. I think that there's various people that would say different things. People want 7%, people want 8%, totally fine. I get it. For myself, just kind of going through this basic information, 6.5, pretty good place to stay. So at least we can see that the income potential for downtown condos is there on average, but out of those 63 sales, I could almost guarantee you there's probably, I would say, 5 that I would consider. There's a lot of different attributes that I would look into for a condo that make the most sense. If you were to increase your rental your tenant's rental rates every single year, what are the odds of retaining that tenant? Do you have a condo that has retention built in? Do they have a pool? Do they have good amenities? Is it walking distance? All of these little things that add into the retention conversation that I typically have with investors. So sorry, tripping over my words. Again, try to do these in one take. So please cut me some slack. I see I'm already at 17 minutes. So last and not least, there's probably a lot of people that have skipped here, and which is totally fine. And this is the Airbnb market, and I've whited this out. Now, you can see in the past 30 days, there was only 5 sales for 2-bedroom downtown condos that allow for Airbnb. I'm only watching 9 buildings downtown Calgary. So this spreadsheet is built around that. You can go and rent out your basement suite. You can go and Airbnb your full house, a townhouse, whatever. This specific spreadsheet is for downtown condos. So you can see on average what I found is about $395 is on the low end, but that's something where I would like to stick within. You can see the down payment as well as the furniture setup, which is an additional cost. You have to furnish the place, beds, kitchen appliances, utensils, TV, couch, all of these things add into the furniture setup. You can see that from what I have found, thanks to your key property management as well as Airbnb DNA, a daily rate of $180 per day at 79% vacancy gets you about $4,266 a month on average. In the wintertime, that's going to go way down. In the summertime, during the stampede, that's going to go twice as high. So these are averages that you really need to calculate throughout the whole year. You have your highs, you have your lows. Your lows, you're probably losing a little bit of money. Your highs, you're probably making a lot of money. Airbnbs right now are very, very tricky. There's a lot of regulations going on. So it's very important that if you get into this market, you are well versed with what is going on the regulation side of things. You don't want to get caught up with an Airbnb that does not have good long-term rental numbers as well. The Airbnbs are great, but you really want to make sure that you do your research. So rental incomes here, mortgage principal, interest, payment, mortgage remaining, property taxes, condo fees. Now you've got property management fees. On average, what I've seen is about 20 to 25%, which is quite a bit of money if you're paying a property manager. You've got your content insurance, which is on the low side of about 40 bucks. You're going to be paying for your Wi-Fi, you're going to be paying for your electricity. But on the bottom here, you can see that for the most part, gas, heat, water, and trash are typically included in the condo fee. So these are very important to really dive into all of the fees that you will be charged every single month, every single year, because as an Airbnb, they're your credit cards that are being charged every single month. So quite interesting to see. Total income per year is about $52,000, where the total expenses per year is about $50,000. So you can see that with something like this at a 79% vacancy rate at $180 per night, you can roughly make about $1,400 a year or $121 a month. There's a lot of risk involved in these as well. You really need to make sure that you're getting very good education before you make this investment, especially with the property manager side of things. If you're looking for a really good property manager, make sure to do your due diligence and reach out to multiple people and ask the questions and figure out what they do differently to get you the most amount. Now, the cap rate on something like this currently is 7.73%, which is a very good cap rate to have. I know a lot of investors that are only looking at stuff around like 7.5, 8, which are hard to find. But Airbnbs, given the high demand and high monthly income, you can actually achieve those high percentages. So that's all I got for you. That is a lot of information. If you have any questions about these spreadsheets, do not hesitate to reach out by email. Ask me questions and we can go from there. If you are ready, you're pre-approved, and you want to know how to get into the market, go ahead, book a 30-minute introduction call. We can go over some of these things. But what I would recommend for you do first is reach out to me, ask for the spreadsheets, play around with the spreadsheets, do your own numbers, do your own research, and then reach out to me and let me know what it is you're after and what it is you're trying to accomplish. So thank you very much. These are very exciting videos. Calgary is going through a very exciting time right now. There are a lot of good opportunities out there for those of you who are patient and willing to act fast. And in order to do that, you need to do your research well ahead of time. I'm going to beat that into all of my viewers, all of my investors watching this right now. Take your time, do the research, act quickly. Thank you very much. Please comment below, let me know you've made it. It really appreciates me. These are very long videos, so I really do put a lot of thought and effort into these because I don't want to try and fool people. So call me out for things that you think I've done wrong. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.